Hello everyone. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and let's go.
Mark ran his hand over the collar of his fresh shirt, trying to quell a tingling feeling of anticipation. 4 years ago, he would never have imagined celebrating his wedding anniversary in a place like this. The Crimson Pulse Club in downtown Los Angeles seemed like a strange choice. Thick neon lighting, a beat that shook his chest, and women in dresses that looked more like pieces of shiny fabric than clothing. But Brooke insisted. She had a way of smiling that made him agree to almost anything. Today she looked especially dazzling. Her long blonde hair cascaded down her bare back, and her short champagne-colored dress hugged her hips, leaving more to the imagination than he thought safe. High heels made her gait bold, almost predatory. "Will you ever relax, Mark?" She moved closer, her hand sliding under his jacket. "We've been married for 7 years. Allow yourself a little frivolity tonight." He looked at her face, carefully, like a mechanic examining an engine, trying to figure out what could go wrong. Her eyes sparkled. Her lips were parted in a hint of playfulness. Damn it, he still wanted her as much as he did on the first day. "Is this your idea of fun?" he asked hoarsely. "Going out so all the men around us can break their necks?" "Not only that." She bit his earlobe lightly. "I want you to see how much I want you. I want us to ignite this together. Then you'll take me home and do whatever you want." He squeezed her waist, feeling the muscles move beneath his palm. "You know how these games end." "I know," she whispered. "That's why I love them." The waiter brought the first bucket of ice with champagne. Brooke poured the glasses, almost spilling it on his jeans. The music was deafening, but Mark could still hear the voices of the men at the next table. Their eyes lingered on Brooke with such candor that he felt a twinge of jealousy. "Let's make a toast." She raised her glass, her fingernail sliding across his wrist. "To freedom. And to the fact that we are so honest with each other that we can afford a little madness." He looked up. "Honest?" "Of course." She took a sip and smiled slyly. "Just you and me. And this world." Mark looked at her lips, glistening with wine, and couldn't resist the urge. Moving closer, he pulled her toward him and kissed her so passionately that her fingers clenched around his neck. She exhaled, arching her back slightly, as if to remind him that there was almost nothing under that thin dress. "I like it like this," she murmured. "But you know what would be even more interesting?" "What?" "If you let me flirt a little." He froze. "With whom?" "With someone." She glanced around the room, lingering on the bar. "For the thrill. For us." "Are you serious?" "We agreed that we wanted new experiences. You said yourself that you no longer feel the same spark." "I said that we were both tired." He put down his glass. "That's not the same thing." She reached out and touched his lips. "Just trust me. You know that at the end of the evening, I'll still belong only to you." He was silent. Inside, everything was boiling, but part of him wanted to believe that this was just a game. She knew how to turn him inside out. "Okay," he said finally. "But in moderation." "I promise," she whispered. "In moderation." At first, everything really seemed safe. Brooke laughed when the guy in the black shirt asked her to dance. She came back, sat on Mark's lap, kissing his neck. Her perfume mixed with the smell of alcohol and club smoke. When they danced together, he felt her body respond to his every movement, sometimes trembling, sometimes yielding to his hands. Sometimes he forgot all his fears. She was still the same girl who had said yes to him 7 years ago with such a sparkle in her eyes. But after a couple of hours, everything started to change. "I'll be right back," she said, adjusting the strap of her dress. "I'll order us some new cocktails." "I can do that myself." No. She touched his cheek. "Relax. You're too tense. I'll be quick." She disappeared into the crowd, turning around only once. 15 minutes passed. He chalked it up to the bar queue. Half an hour passed. Mark went to check the restrooms, empty. 45 minutes passed. He called the waitress. "Have you seen my wife? A blonde in a short dress." The girl nodded. "She left with Jake. Our bartender. She said you knew about it. They went to a private room." Mark's neck froze. "Jake? Which Jake?" Well, tall, dark-haired. He used to work here. I think they know each other. He realized he was breathing too fast. Inside, where a quiet fire of desire had once burned, something else was now blazing, something evil and black. He took out his phone to call, but at that moment the screen flashed with a notification. It was a message from Travis, an old acquaintance who happened to be at the club tonight. Bro, I don't know what's going on with you guys, but check this out if you want. No offense. Mark pressed play. In the video, Brooke was kneeling in front of a tall guy in a white shirt. He couldn't make out the details, but he understood the main thing. Her arms were wrapped around his neck, and her lips were slowly sliding down his cheekbone. Then, to his lips. Their kiss was long, greedy, real. For a second, Brooke tilted her head back and laughed. The sound was muffled, but he could make out the words. You're still as insatiable as ever. Mark closed his eyes. His chest was bursting. He could no longer hear the music. His whole body tensed like a tight string. Jake. Her former lover. She herself had mentioned him once, in passing, with an ambiguous smile. And this night had been planned in advance. He opened his eyes, an icy calmness enveloping him from head to toe. If she thought he would remain a silent witness to her new sensations, she was mistaken. He moved through the crowd, feeling people part as they watched him go. At that moment, he knew for sure that his life was coming to an end. The end of marriage, the end of trust, the end of illusions. The door to the VIP area was ajar. Mark pushed it open, and warm twilight enveloped him like thick smoke. The music here sounded muffled, but after taking a few steps, he saw something he would remember for the rest of his life. Brooke was kneeling in front of Jake, her arms wrapped around his neck. His hands were resting on her bare thighs. They were laughing, and there was something strange about that laughter. Vulgar. Mark froze, trying to figure out if there was even a glimmer of hope that he was wrong. But when Jake leaned down and pressed his lips to her neck, and Brooke arched her back, smoothing his hair, that hope died completely. He took another step, and the floorboards under the carpet creaked. She turned around. Her eyes widened, and for a second, something like shame flashed in them. But it was too brief. Too superficial. Mark, she began, her voice faltering. It's not like that. Jake turned his head lazily, his gaze sliding over Mark as if he were an empty space. Hey man. Relax. He grinned. You guys agreed to this, right? It's all for the sake of your spark. Mark didn't answer. He just stepped toward them. His hand clamped down on Jake's collar with such force that Jake gasped briefly. Stand up, Mark said, his voice muffled calm, but so loud that even the music seemed quieter. Dude, you don't understand. Jake tried to move, but Mark yanked him up. The chair crashed to the floor. Hey, take it easy. Brooke jumped up, grabbing her husband's arm. Mark, please. It was just a game. Get off him, he interrupted her. Now. She stepped back, her face pale. Jake flinched, but Mark pushed him so hard in the chest that he flew back against the wall. I'll say this once. He took a step forward, towering over him. Get out. While you can still walk. The smirk was gone from Jake's eyes. He raised his hands and, without looking at Brooke, slipped out into the hallway. The room was empty. Only she remained. Her breathing was uneven. Her hair fell over her face, her lips swollen from kissing. There was something painfully erotic and humiliating about it at the same time. Mark, she began more quietly. I didn't want it to turn out like this. I needed it. I wanted to remember what I used to be like. Young. Desired. He looked at her, trying to see the woman he loved. But he saw someone completely different. A woman who was willing to destroy everything for a few hours of adrenaline. You remember now, he said coldly. Now remember what happens when a person crosses the line. She took a step toward him, trying to touch him. I'll come home. We'll talk. You'll understand. He grabbed her wrist. His fingers tightened, but not painfully, just enough for her to understand that there would be no more forgiveness. No. His voice was low, like a growl. You're not coming home. Brooke paled. What are you? What do you mean? You decided everything yourself. He let go of her hand, as if shaking off the last remnants of affection. Congratulations. Starting tonight, you're free. Completely free. Are you serious? For the first time, her voice sounded genuinely panicked. It's just. You call it just? He shook his head slowly. You sat on his lap and called him insatiable. Did you think I would swallow all that? You were wrong. She opened her mouth, but he had already turned toward the exit. Mark, she called after him. Wait. It doesn't mean anything to me. He stopped at the door without turning around. But it means something to me. And he left. When he returned to the club's common room, people parted as if they could feel his anger. He took his jacket from the back of a chair, took out his phone, and called a taxi for her. Then, after thinking for a moment, he cancelled it. Let Jake give her a ride. Or anyone else. He didn't care. He stepped out into the cool night air. His heart was pounding, but his mind was calm. It was as if a clear plan had blocked out the pain. You're not going home. He repeated it to himself so he would remember. So he wouldn't break down under her tears. Brooke showed up half an hour later. Her face was deathly pale, her lips trembling. Mark! She took a step toward him as he loaded her purse and shoes into the trunk of her car. Please. Let's not do this. We'll talk about it at home. He looked up. You don't live at home anymore. This is stupid. We've been together for 7 years. I love you. You love yourself. He threw her purse at her feet. And I love being respected. She made a move as if to hug him. He raised his hand to stop her. Don't touch me. Mark, please. It was a mistake. I didn't think you'd find out. Exactly. He looked her in the eyes. You didn't think. Not about me. Not about us. Only about yourself. She sniffed. At that moment, her knees buckled. She looked small and lost. And that was another drop of poison. He still felt something for her. But it was no longer love. Go, he said. Find the one you risked so much for. Maybe he'll take you back. Where should I go? Her voice broke. This is my home. He nodded toward the street. Now the whole world is your home. Live as you wish. Brooke stood holding her shoes in her hand. Her tears glistened under the streetlight. He got into her car, took her things to the porch of the house, laid them on the doorstep, feeling nothing but emptiness. He attached a piece of paper to the door. You crossed the line. You are nothing to me anymore. He locked the door, sat down in the living room, and finally allowed himself to breathe. His hands were shaking. His chest was pounding as if he had been in a fight. But for the first time in a long time, he knew he had done the right thing. He hadn't let her destroy his dignity for the sake of her games. In the morning, Brooke arrived. She was wearing a gray coat and had red eyes. She looked at the suitcases standing under the porch as if they were her life. Mark saw her through the window. He got up. He walked to the door. But he didn't open it. She knocked for a long time. She shouted that she loved him. That she would go crazy without him. That it was a mistake. He stood with his hand on the wood. And didn't open the door. She chose all this herself. And now she has to live with that choice. Mark never opened the door. He waited until her sobs subsided. 20 minutes later, he looked out the window and saw Brooke sitting on the top step with her phone in her hands. She was trying to call someone, but no one was answering. He knew that none of her new friends would seriously offer her shelter. They were just episodes, as fleeting as the lights in a club. Another half hour passed. She got up and slowly descended the steps. The suitcase clattered on the wooden board as she dragged it to the car. She looked back one last time. And as if hoping that he would run out, grab her, forgive everything, she lingered with her gaze on the window. Mark stood behind the curtain, but did not move. He saw her shoulders tremble. How she covered her face with her hands. How she lowered her head. But he didn't open the door. Brooke loaded her things, started the engine, and drove away. Without a cry, without a goodbye, without promises to make everything right. Only when her car turned the corner did Mark step out onto the porch. The night air was cold and empty. But it was freedom, not loneliness. He went into the house, took off his wedding ring, and left it on the table. Then he took a box out of the storage room and began to put her photos, trinkets, and things that reminded him of the past into it. By morning, he was done. When dawn broke, he took the box to the trash can and placed a piece of paper on top of it. "This is all that's left of you here." He closed the trunk of his car. For the first time in many years, he drove to the ocean alone, without thinking about who was waiting for him at home. And for the first time, it wasn't scary. Because home remained with him, in his determination never to let anyone take away his dignity again. The story is over. Brooke is gone forever. Mark ended the marriage himself. He had no regrets. And that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.